Emma Hayes is with me to talk about her book, A Completely Different Game, and her career, especially since leaving Chelsea to coach the USA international women's team. Have you come down from the Olympics yet?
No,
Congratulations.
I haven't. I haven't. I'm alive. I say otherwise. I mean, look, I feel like I worked my whole life to be in that position to compete for an Olympic medal. I, I couldn't believe it come full time whistle that the team had done it, and I've been absolutely buzzing since.
What made it different to other international football tournaments or other big tournaments that you've been involved in? Because it is a completely unique experience being an Olympian, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe because I lived and worked in America for 10 years, I understood the importance of the Olympics to the American public. So I knew it was a big deal for the players and they approached it like that. I think the difference is exactly that. Maybe not when we were in Marseille or Lyon, but once you got to Paris and go to the Olympic Village and you get to experience everything in and around it, you realize how big the Olympic Games are. And just to do that, no, we were playing every 3 days was just something. The girls always said to me the World Cup or the Euros are so much different, but the Olympics is definitely unique, probably because of all the other sports around it.
And you obviously didn't have too much time to prepare for it. So does this rank higher in your list of achievements because of the truncated nature of the sort of preparation time from leaving Chelsea to going to Paris?
I think it's easy to say yes to that because this is the latest trophy lift, but I don't want to take anything away from what I did at Chelsea because every one of those trophies was special and we all know how much, how dear that club is to me. So I don't want to take anything away from them.
Or at the end of 12 years of running the most dominant club in England and picking up just I think it was 16 trophies, 7 league titles, 5 FA Cups. And after dramatically coming back towards the end of the season from a tricky situation to pit
Yeah.
your rivals to the league title, people might have expected that you would take a break. What was it? Was it because you couldn't say no to the USA and that opportunity, or was that you want, you crave to work?
I don't get paid what Jurgen Klopp gets paid for me to take a sabbatical year. So I have to pay the bills but at the same time I got to do the job that I dreamed about doing my whole life. And yes, a break would have been, I think, optimal, but sometimes a change is as good as a rest. And I definitely felt that over the summer. I just felt just by experiencing some different things, traveling to different places, connecting with different people, I felt rejuvenated just doing that.
You've written a book about leadership. It's essentially a leadership playbook. I think it even says that on the inside jacket. One of the things that you mentioned early is that coaches, and you mentioned to Jurgen Klopp just then, even the best ones aren't superheroes, but the elite coaches like Pep, like you, like Klopp, like Jose Mourinho, have something that others don't have. So what is it?
Trophies, um, to state the obvious. I'm not having that. I'm not buying that argument because I'm sure behind a Pep Guardiola, all the people you've mentioned was an army of great people. And that is everything from the experts, from medical performance, analysis. Every support mechanism that's around the player is so essential. And as we know, it takes a village to raise a family, and to run a football team takes more than just the qualities of a manager.
And do you think that having had to fight for more support, more people, more members of staff at Chelsea and in the women's game in particular, because by doing it at Chelsea, you've sort of shone a light on the fact that the women's game was understaffed, that you recognise that sort of village mentality is more important.
Yeah, I think having to fight for something has probably helped, but I think because when you don't have a lot, you learn how to do a lot of things. So I probably learned along the way to do a number of different jobs to realize the importance of what those needs were and bit by bit put them in place. But I've said it many, many times, the women's game's like a startup business, and the women's game here in England probably post 2012 is 10 plus years into that build. So still relatively young and where it should be. And hopefully with Nuco can start to really push the game on and start to fill stadia in an even bigger way than we have done so far.
Are you expecting that the next season of the WSL, which is not too far away now, is going to be even more competitive than the last few? Do you think that now, especially with you moving on, it's going to be
I don't think it's
slightly
been any
different?
different. I think it's been competitive every single year. And I think about the trophy lifts, particularly the 5 in a row. Every single one of them was a challenge and a struggle. And we only ever won the title on the last day. So I don't think it would be any different. Just what happens, I think, is you just get more teams involved with that competition. And I'm sure that will be the case with investment that's gone across the league.
What do you think the differences are, and what have the differences been for you between managing a massive club side like Chelsea and the biggest national team in women's football?
Uh, the everyday really matters when you're coaching national team. Sometimes at the club level, you're around each other an awful lot. So there can be sort of an ebb and flow that sometimes people are at their best, sometimes and not at others. Whereas at the national team, because you don't have a lot of training sessions and a lot of games, it seems to be something that everybody does at 1,000%. And as a result of that, you feel like you're not having to, you know, push everyone in the same way. Their intrinsic motivations to play for their country is really, really profound. And I think you just have to be so much more succinct at the international level because you have such limited time.
Does it come with extra pressure in that you feel that you've got to get your message across in a slightly different way, but also that you've always got to be at your very bubbly best and making sure that you're completely on top of everything because you can't have an off day when you've got such little time?
I liked the challenge of like everyone saying, "Oh, it's so different from club football." You know, do you have the skills to do that? And I kept thinking, coaching's coaching, and people are people. As that's the first thing, and two, like, what motivation is required to go and play in Marseille, Lyon, and Paris? Oh, and win a gold medal. Like, no motivation is required for that. That's dream stuff. And yeah, I think I just wanted to enjoy it, and that's what I have done. I've sort of felt like the last couple of years, on a personal level, I just haven't had a lot of joy, and I just wanted to enjoy football, and in a way that I haven't done, and for that reason, it was magic. It was
And be,
magic.
and because of the stuff that has happened in your personal life, your football career obviously sometimes has provided you solace. It's provided with you
Yeah.
with opportunity. Have you felt yourself sort of now almost sort of throwing yourself even more into it, or have you taken on less of an importance to you?
Yeah, no, it's all about balance, and I'm enjoying having a little bit more time in between things, not having to rush out the door first thing in the morning to drive around to Cobham. I don't miss those days, of course. I'll
That
all
M25, yeah.
listen. I know I should. I'll always be Chelsea, and that won't ever change. Like in my heart, I love that club in a lot of ways. But now I get to enjoy the Sonia era, and now I get to experience watching the WSL in a different way and in a different capacity. And I'm very much looking forward to that.
New eras come and go quite regularly in football. This weekend, Lee Carsley steps up into his new role as the interim England manager. What is it like for someone taking on a group that have been relatively successful, but things haven't been perfect and the narrative around them isn't perfect? Need a new direction, arguably, because it was a sort of similar situation when you took over the USA team that had been all conquering for so long and then had just faltered at the most recent tournament.
I just think people need to be a bit more realistic about what their expectations are. And for the US women's national team, they've been hugely successful if you consider the volume of trophies that team has won. But success isn't permanent, and others are investing in a similar way. So it should be expected that others will compete. And I think for me, taking over a program that, yeah, okay, didn't have a great World Cup, but have a great history. And um, when you've got willing players who want to be coached and they have a humility to them, as well as talent, like you have the chance to do anything. And I'm sure that was the case for me, and I'm sure it'll be the case, for any manager.
Do you think that the pinnacle of being a manager is still managing the England national team like it was for many years?
I don't know because I think everybody's ambitions are different. So I can't answer that, but I know I'm doing the job that I've always wanted to do. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm at the pinnacle of my career, coaching a team that I've always wanted to coach.
At the end of your book, you talk about elite sport being one-dimensional and lacking balance. You talk about at the end, at the end of maybe your international journey, maybe you'll be so enriched that you enter the men's game, even knowing what may come your way if you do that. How much of you still wants to be the person that crosses that Rubicon?
I've never said that I wanted to be that person. What I've always said is that I can't quite get my head around the fact that women have never been given that opportunity. But I'm almost always astonished that I'm the person who's asked that question instead of why aren't you asking owners on a more regular basis and people who are on boards or those that control the game why that isn't the case, because it's not me that the question should be directed at. As far as I'm concerned, I am a huge advocate of women's sport and I'm happy to be coaching at the pinnacle of the game. The men's game is always viewed as the pinnacle, yet in the United States, being the US women's national team head coach is the pinnacle of the game.
Mm.
So, of course, asking me about the men's game wouldn't even be, something that's asked regularly, even though in the US there's no females coaching in men's soccer. But look, I'm not. I start saying I'll be so honest with you. I love what I do. I don't think about it. I just want to do this job as well as I can, and I'm sure one day it will change. But it's very unlikely it will be me.